It's hard not to like people who like you. And I think that's what I was feeling on that very first trip. And of course, wherever I went, the people looked just like the people from Hawaii. So I also felt very comfortable for that reason as well. Well, 1995, as I mentioned, was a very different time than my last trip. And I had an intervening trip. I went over there for the United States to do training. This was in about 2001, when they started this devolution of the government to the local level. And in that period of time, people in the local governments had no experience. What is a budget? What is a charter of a local government? How do we get the money to carry out our responsibilities? So I went over and I was talking about program-based budgeting on a local level. But in 2007, I think was the most important trip of all, and that's when General Lee, Representative Ward, and others were on that trip. And that was for this state partnership. As I said, it was requested by the Indonesian government, and it allowed them to interact with the American military, and yet not the official United States military, you know, or the Secretary of Defense, or get into that, but on a local level, people to people. And General Lee has developed wonderful partnerships there. We signed this agreement with the Secretary of Defense in Indonesia, and it said that we would collaborate in a variety of ways, and we continue to try to do that. And one of the areas that the Indonesians were most interested in, and I believe most grateful for, was the ability to help with civil defense emergencies when they occurred. You know that Indonesia suffered more than an average amount of these kind of natural disasters, whether they're hurricane, typhoons, or whether they're earthquakes, or mudslides, or whatever they, tsunami, whatever they happen to be suffering at the time. And their response is not as robust as it needs to be. It's not well defined on who's going to do what. And I think that is improving and has improved through the years. But that's an area that General Lee is able to work with them on. Also, the hero of the trip, the real celebrity on our trip when we went to Indonesia in 2007, you might be very surprised at this. I certainly was. Nobody wanted my picture in Indonesia, but and General Lee, yeah, he was okay, but the guy they really wanted their picture taken with was Dr. Chip McCreary. Dr. McCreary is the head of our Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. He is a hero in Indonesia because he has helped them to develop that early warning system that can help them in the future. And so wherever we went, I'm not exaggerating, he was interviewed every television station, every newspaper, everyone wanted to talk with him about this issue. And at that time, you know, it wasn't that long after some really serious disasters, the tsunami that had been suffered in Aceh in particular. But Dr. McCreary is a great person and has helped a lot. I'm looking forward to what the Hawaii-Indonesia Chamber of Commerce can bring to the business people, to the children, the students of Hawaii. I think this country being the largest Muslim country in the world also makes it very important. And one of the things that struck me the most when I was there, we had a roundtable discussion. Jim, you weren't there at that, but you were there, Reverend, when we went to that think tank. I forget CSIS. I forget their official name. But I like to, when I travel, I like to talk to people in government and politics and business and hear what they're thinking about their country. And we hear some very, very high-level experienced people, former ambassadors from Indonesia to Australia, just these kinds of people talking about these issues. And they made a comment to me that has stuck with me. And they made a comparison between America-Indonesia relations and America-China relations, and the business that's going on between both of those country matchups. And they said to me, for Indonesia, where's the democracy dividend? And what they meant was, we're a country that everything America says it wants. They have a free press, and they have an aggressive free press. I can tell you, I've interacted with them. They're good. They match up with anybody in America as far as asking the tough questions, in my opinion. We have freedom of religion, although they are the largest Muslim country, and probably 90–95% of the people are Muslim. The island of Bali is Hindu, and other religions exist there. We have a completely open capitalist system for our economy, and yet everybody's running to China. Everybody wants to invest in China. So they're asking a very fair question, which is, where's the democracy dividend? Yeah, it would be easier to get things on track if we were an autocratic government who would just order things around. I can tell you, I've been in China, and it's very efficient. I marvel at the things that they're doing. But it's easier if you don't need to worry about a legislative body. Senator Aspero, I see an audience, Representative Ford. If I didn't have to worry about these guys, I'd get a lot more done. I promise you, it wouldn't be as good for the public in the long term, obviously, not to have a check and balance in government. And that's the issue that Indonesia is raising. But so it makes the front end harder to get where you want to get to than a government like China. And so I think they ask a fair question, and that's why I'm happy to see this Chamber of Commerce start up. I think a country that's important now, but going to be increasingly important in the future. I think America on the national level is missing a huge opportunity in Indonesia. I know that President Obama has brought some focus to Indonesia, having lived there for a period of time, having knowledge more than an average person about the country, but that's not enough because we have people in Congress who are completely uneducated about the nation of Indonesia. They're using politics, in my opinion, to punish Indonesia when they should be doing the exact opposite. And I'll just point to one, that you have, and we heard this wherever we went in Indonesia, you have a restriction now on Indonesia sending people to our service academies, sending young officers to West Point and to the Naval Academy at Annapolis. And this is something that they cherish, something they look forward to, but it's also something we should cherish. We should want to have happen. What better than to have their up-and-coming young officers trained in American military academy that teaches as its foundation civilian control of the military, ethics in the military. What better way than to bring their officers into our service academies? And yet, because we have a certain congressman from a certain state, I won't mention, who has some issue and has a staffer who's like with Amnesty International and is hypercritical of Indonesia, they've been able to stop this from occurring now for years. And when we travel, they just ask why. So I think it's important, and maybe it has to be from the ground up, because this situation at the national level has been allowed to go on for too long in a country that's this important. This is my own personal opinion. So this kind of from the bottom up, I mean, can be very powerful. And with APEC coming in 2011 to Hawaii, this is a perfect time to shine some light on this relationship. So you could play a big role, not just of founding right now, but with APEC coming, you can really, I think, build membership and have a substantial influence. I appreciate being able to share my love for this country. It's something I just felt from my very first visit. Thank you very much.